What if the greatest threat to America's secrets didn't come from Moscow, but from a modest New York apartment? Imagine a husband and wife, seemingly ordinary, accused of leaking atomic secrets that could alter the world's fragile balance forever. Stay with us, because their story is one of ideology, espionage, family, and an ending shrouded in electric silence. By the time their trial ended, they would become the only Americans executed for espionage during the tense Cold War. Julius Rosenberg was born to immigrant parents, growing up poor in New York, yet driven by ambition and deep convictions. Ethel Greenglass, spirited and intelligent, dreamed of Broadway stages, but instead found herself drawn into politics and communist ideals. They married young, united not only in love, but also in shared belief that communism could reshape society's inequalities worldwide. Julius's engineering background soon gained him access to classified projects, including military communications, radar systems, and later atomic research programs. The Soviets noticed his talent and his disillusionment with capitalism, offering purpose, recognition, and an ideological cause far beyond salary. Recruitment was subtle: a meeting at a union rally, a quiet introduction, then conversations about equality and resisting fascism globally. Julius felt history demanded action. In secret, he agreed to share American military secrets to strengthen their Soviet wartime allies. Ethel's brother, David Greenglass, worked at Los Alamos, a key Manhattan project site where atomic bomb secrets were guarded fiercely. Julius convinced David to pass sketches, notes, and technical details, claiming they were helping balance power and prevent future wars. Ethel typed David's handwritten notes, transforming scraps into neat reports the Soviets could use to accelerate nuclear development programs. Their handlers used coded signals, park benches, and carefully arranged meetings. Espionage moved quietly through bustling New York streets. Julius felt like a soldier of ideology, convinced aiding the Soviets meant preserving peace rather than betraying his homeland's trust. At home, the Rosenbergs raised two young sons whose innocent laughter masked the dangerous double life their parents lived daily. Friends saw a devoted couple, committed parents, and hard-working citizens, never suspecting whispered secrets exchanged in shadows and crowded trains. As the Cold War intensified, America tightened internal security. But still, the Rosenbergs managed to leak valuable atomic details successfully. Julius organized small espionage networks, recruiting sympathizers and encouraging them to pass industrial secrets for the greater socialist cause. Ethel remained quieter, but prosecutors later claimed her typing was critical evidence that cemented her active role in espionage activities. Soviet archives revealed years later their material was not decisive, but it shortened Soviet development time by crucial months. Meanwhile, American officials became suspicious. Too many leaks, too many coincidences linking civilian engineers to compromised military secrets. The FBI began piecing together fragments of reports, informant statements, and counterintelligence findings, narrowing suspects to Julius's circle uncomfortably. In 1950, a courier named Harry Gold was arrested, his confessions leading directly toward David Greenglass and eventually Julius. David, under pressure, testified that Julius recruited him at Los Alamos and that Ethel helped type sensitive espionage notes. The FBI arrested Julius in July 1950, accusing him of leading an atomic spy ring aiding the Soviet Union. Ethel was arrested weeks later. accused not only of supporting Julius but of coordinating espionage through her typing efforts. The arrests shocked neighbors. Cameras captured images of Ethel dragged away, leaving 2 children crying on New York sidewalks. Interrogations were grueling. Julius refused to name names, insisting his innocence, while Ethel denied any knowledge of atomic secrets. Prosecutors sought leverage, using Ethel's fate as pressure on Julius to confess, believing a mother would crack under threat. Instead, the Rosenbergs stood firm, insisting they were victims of hysteria, framed for political theater during McCarthy's growing anti-communist crusade. The trial began March 1951, quickly becoming a national spectacle, with journalists crammed into courtrooms, hungry for dramatic Cold War headlines. Witnesses included David Greenglass, whose testimony was pivotal, painting Julius as recruiter and Ethel as active accomplice in espionage. Defense attorneys argued weak evidence, claiming the case relied entirely on coerced testimonies and circumstantial claims, rather than tangible proof. Prosecutors emphasized patriotism, portraying the Rosenbergs as traitors who endangered American soldiers and jeopardized national security during wartime conflicts. The Judge Irving Kaufman delivered stern words, declaring their acts responsible for accelerating Soviet nuclear power and fueling the Cold War. The Rosenbergs maintained composure, holding hands during proceedings, whispering to each other, while journalists scribbled every visible expression fiercely. The jury deliberated briefly, returning guilty verdicts on espionage charges for both Julius and Ethel without significant hesitation afterward. Judge Kaufman sentenced them to death, citing a crime worse than murder and holding them responsible for countless future deaths. Appeals followed, supported by international protests, religious leaders, and intellectuals worldwide, who questioned fairness, evidence, and possible political motivations. Demonstrations erupted in Paris, London, and New York, banners demanding clemency waving beneath chants of justice and human rights. The FBI maintained their guilt, insisting the Rosenbergs were central players in espionage that compromised America's atomic monopoly significantly. Supporters argued Ethel's role was exaggerated, her conviction based on typing notes rather than direct involvement in espionage networks. Still, the U.S. government stood firm, determined to show strength against communism and discourage potential spies from betraying secrets. Julius wrote letters from prison professing innocence, condemning anti-communist hysteria, and promising their deaths would not erase their dignity. Ethel, equally steadfast, wrote to her sons, urging them to remember their parents as victims of injustice and conviction. The couple refused to confess. Despite hints, their lives could be spared if they admitted guilt and implicated others. International appeals continued. Even Pope Pius XII requested clemency, but the Eisenhower administration rejected pleas for mercy completely. The date of execution was set for June 19, 1953, at Sing Sing Prison's electric chair chamber mercilessly prepared. Crowds gathered outside, divided between protesters demanding mercy and citizens shouting traitors as headlines sensationalized the impending executions worldwide. Inside prison, Julius kissed Ethel one last time, whispering words only she heard. Their final moment as husband and wife, guards escorted Julius first. Electricity surged, silence followed. Then Ethel, frail but composed, met the same final, irreversible fate. The world watched. Photographs captured silent prison walls, while newspapers screamed headlines of justice, betrayal, and irreversible consequences for espionage. Their 2 young sons were left orphaned, taken in by strangers, bearing lifelong shadows of stigma and questions unanswered forever. Debate ignited immediately. Were they guilty beyond doubt, or were they martyrs of America's political hysteria during Cold War paranoia? Decades later, declassified Soviet files confirmed Julius's involvement, yet Ethel's role remained disputed, sparking continued controversy and historical debate. The Rosenbergs' story remains one of America's most divisive betrayals, blending espionage, ideology, family, and the brutal weight of justice. Their lives ended, but their names became synonymous with Cold War paranoia, betrayal, and questions of fairness within American justice. Their children, Michael and Robert, grew into men who defended their parents' memory, seeking truth and challenging official narratives. The Rosenberg Fund for Children was later established, helping children of activists and dissidents, carrying forward their legacy indirectly. Yet, the shadow of atomic betrayal still lingers, a reminder of the dangers of ideology when intertwined with personal conviction. Their betrayal deepened American fears, sparking McCarthyism's rise, loyalty oaths, and an atmosphere of suspicion across institutions nationwide. Scientists faced scrutiny, immigrants faced suspicion, and entire communities were torn apart by accusations of communist sympathies or disloyalty. America's faith in internal security cracked. Allies questioned how such secrets slipped from a democracy's guarded laboratories unchecked. The Soviet Union successfully tested atomic weapons years earlier than predicted, forever altering the balance of nuclear power worldwide. The Rosenberg case became propaganda for both sides. America showcasing justice, Soviets portraying martyrdom against capitalist oppression internationally. Families across America feared hidden spies, fueling witch hunts that destroyed reputations, jobs, and careers with little tangible evidence. Diplomats struggled with fallout, balancing fear-driven policies while attempting to maintain credibility in international alliances during global Cold War. For many, the Rosenbergs' deaths symbolized America's uncompromising resolve against treachery, no matter how personal or politically charged the case. For others, their execution symbolized injustice, scapegoating, and the dangers of fear clouding reasoned judgment under national pressure. Their motives revealed a dangerous mix of ideology, disillusionment, and conviction, capable of driving ordinary people into extraordinary betrayal. Julius believed communism's rise was essential for world peace, while Ethel's role may have been more loyalty than ideology. Fear of fascism's return shaped their choices, blinding them to the consequences of undermining their homeland during a fragile time. Lessons learned remind leaders that over-centralized access and weak counterintelligence can turn personal discontent into devastating national betrayal. The Rosenbergs remind us that truth often lies in ambiguity, with motives layered beyond simple patriotism or simple treachery. For security services, their story underscores the need for vigilance, balance, and fairness to prevent both betrayal and injustice. For society, it raises questions about justice during fear-driven times and how democracy must protect itself without losing humanity. Ultimately, the Rosenbergs' tale reflects how ideology, loyalty, and justice collide, leaving lessons etched in history's uneasy conscience forever. June 19, 1953, remains etched in American memory, a night when justice and controversy collided inside Sing Sing's prison walls. Julius and Ethel's final act was silence, refusing confession, leaving history to argue whether they were villains or martyrs eternally. Their son's lifelong search for truth symbolizes resilience, proving that even in betrayal's shadow, hope and humanity can persist strongly. Generations later, historians continue debating their guilt, their trials, fairness, and what their story reveals about America's democratic vulnerabilities. The Rosenbergs' names echo in classrooms, documentaries, and debates, cautioning nations about ideology's power to inspire loyalty and betrayal simultaneously. Their execution marked the Cold War's darkest domestic chapter, merging law, politics, espionage, and tragedy in one unforgettable case. If this story stirred you, subscribe, share, and comment your perspective. The debate over truth and justice continues with you. Join us next time as we uncover another betrayal hidden within war's shadows, where loyalty, survival, and secrecy inevitably collide.